Hello, and welcome to another episode of Retrospective Gaming. In this episode, I will be reviewing Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines. Before I move on, I just want to say something. I am using the unofficial patch version 9.4, so I'll be talking about my experiences with this game with the unofficial patch installed. And one more thing, there will be minor spoilers in this review. I just wanted to let everyone know. Let's move on with the review. Before you start the game, you have to create a character. You can pick from different clans and then choose your abilities, attributes, and disciplines. I will talk more about that later. After you create your character, the story starts off with someone killing your character, but you are resurrected into a fledgling vampire. This isn't allowed, so both of you are brought before the Camarilla. They're the vampire government, maintaining law and order, upper class, that's what they are. You are brought before the Prince of Los Angeles, also known as LaCroix. The person that did this to you, you can call him your sire, is executed for breaking the Camarilla's laws, but you are spared, thanks to a person named Nines Rodriguez. He is a leader of the Anarchs movement. After that, you are sent to Santa Monica because you are employed by the Prince. This is how the game starts. The story was very interesting. I was drawn into it. Seeing the power struggle between the different factions and you being stuck in the middle. The Camarilla, they're the vampire government. Or the Anarchs. The Anarchs, they don't like the Camarilla. They think they're power hungry. Or the Sabbat. The Sabbat is just barbaric. They don't follow the Masquerade. The Masquerade is a code that you have to follow. You don't want the public to know you're a vampire. You have to keep it a secret. To talk more about the story, it was very interesting to see the way the different clans interact with each other, the different factions, what their beliefs are, the inner workings, the politicking, the backstabbing, all these different things that go on within the story. It kind of reminds me of what goes on in our own society. It's not that different if you think about it, just different circumstances and different worlds. Trust me, there's more to the story than that. I just don't want to spoil too much. So, overall, I did enjoy the story. I do have one minor issue. Near the end of the game, I felt the pacing was a little bit off. It felt kind of rushed, but that's just a minor issue. The writing in this game is excellent. It's very well written. There's also multiple endings. I really did enjoy it. One thing that really helps this game out, especially with this story, is the voice acting. The voice acting is excellent. You can tell that these voice actors actually gave a damn about doing their lines, and he just wasn't there just to cash a check, do their jobs half-assed, and leave. They actually gave a fuck. You actually hear emotion. You actually hear people doing their fucking job instead of it just sounding like they're reading off a script. The voice acting in this game is excellent. One last thing about the story before I move on to gameplay. I really did enjoy the writing in this game. It got sloppy at some parts, especially near the end, but overall, it did a really good job of getting me involved in this world. I didn't know anything about the background of Vampire: The Masquerade. I just came into this game blind, and I talked to everybody. I wanted to learn the background of each clan or each faction. I noticed that your character does have a good amount of choices in this game, with the dialogue and the amount of choices that you can make when you're talking to people, depending on the type of character that you make. This is basic role-playing 101 for me, and they actually did it a lot better than a lot of modern role-playing games. And this is an action RPG. This is not even a traditional role-playing game. So like I said before, I did enjoy the story, even though I have some issues with the pacing at the end. That's all minor. The story was excellent. Let's talk about the gameplay. When you create your character, you can choose from 7 different clans. There is replayability in this game, just from picking a different clan. For example, if you play as a Nosferatu, it is like a whole different game. It is a totally different experience than from playing a character like a Tremere or a Bruja. When you're a Nosferatu, you can't be seen, so you have to stay in the shadows and stay in the sewers. You have abilities, attributes, and disciplines. This is what shapes your character. Make sure you pay attention to the type of character that you want to create. It does make a difference, and it does matter. Whether your character is charismatic and that character can dominate, persuade, or seduce people into doing what that character wants, or the character that you make is good at lockpicking or hacking. There's different ways to handle situations, so it does change the way the story and the side quest goes depending on what type of character you create. And what really helps this is the writing. Since the writing is excellent and you have different dialogue options, if I'm a character that persuades people or seduces people, they're going to have different outcomes and different ways to handle situations, so I really appreciate that. You're a vampire, so of course you need blood. Blood is like magic in this game. You can do different spells like commanding people or healing yourselves, boosting your stats for a short period of time, making them dance or driving them crazy, things like that. You have to keep that bar somewhat filled at all times. If that bar is empty and you haven't drank any blood, your character can go into a frenzy. When that character goes into a frenzy, it goes out of control for a certain amount of time, and that can be a bad thing. You don't want to go crazy in public and expose yourself as a vampire to the public because you will break the masquerade. You have masquerade points. When you break the masquerade enough times, the game will be over. If you lose a point, you can redeem it, so it won't be gone forever. You have to not expose yourself to the public, you just have to act normal when you're around people. This is an action RPG, so of course you will be fighting. The combat in this game is clunky, especially the melee combat. It just wasn't very fluid and sometimes hits weren't connecting and the camera angles. It's not terrible, it's not impossible, it's certainly playable, but it just wasn't very fluid. And the range combat, I enjoyed it. It wasn't that bad. I played a ranged character, and in the beginning of the game, range combat sucks. I'm just going to be honest with you. Melee weapons are your way to go in the beginning of the game because the range combat is just terrible and the weapons you get in the beginning of the game sucks. But as you progress through the game, range combat becomes awesome. So if you play a ranged character like I did, it's not the end of the world. Just wait it out a bit and then you'll get some awesome weapons and you'll kick ass. You also have spells. I didn't use them that much my first playthrough. I was more focused on making a ranged character, but some of them did come in handy. The combat is not terrible. It's not amazing, it's just mediocre. That's my opinion. But the thing is, the combat wasn't really important to me in this game. At certain points it felt like it just got in the way. I was more interested in the characters, the areas, exploring, talking to everyone, learning about the different clans, just trying to get as much information as I can about the world. That is what was most important to me in this game. I know it's an action RPG, but the storyline and the writing, that's what the most important thing was. It just felt like combat was just in the background. It was just there to advance the storyline. It's weird, it's an action RPG, but I didn't really give a fuck about the combat. It just felt like it was in the background for me. The characters, the world, the storyline, it's just so interesting that I didn't give a fuck about combat, and at certain points it was just like, oh, I gotta fight people, I just want to find out about the story, so let me hurry up and kill them. Let's talk about atmosphere and sound. Now, a game can have an interesting storyline, but without an interesting setting to complement that, it could ruin your experience. This game definitely has an interesting setting. Los Angeles. You start out in Santa Monica, but there's other places to explore as you progress through the game. This game is dark and grimy. It's not like those romantic vampire novels you might see in a bookstore. There's a lot of fucked up things that happen in this game, and you have to deal with it. What's your moral compass? In most games, when you have these situations where you can either do something bad or good or anything like that, I don't really care, and it's not really deep or anything like that or anything too interesting. But in this game, when I had to make a moral choice, when I had to either impact someone's life in a good or bad way, I really thought about it. This game has a great setting, great atmosphere, and I want to show you a couple places that I think prove that. The first place, the Ocean House Hotel. When I went inside this hotel, it was dark and it was fucked up, of course, but I wasn't really scared or anything like that or creeped out. But as soon as I saw that girl running and everything started to freak out in the kitchen and things were flying around everywhere, I gotta admit, it did creep me out a bit. I wasn't expecting that. The second place is the hospital. I'm not gonna say what leads you to this hospital or what quest you're on, but just going through that whole area trying to figure out what's going on inside this hospital really fucking creeped me out. It didn't scare me, but it kind of got me like off the edge a bit. And when I finally found out what was going on in this hospital, when I ran into the entity that was causing all of this, let's just say it was interesting. Last example is Grout's mansion. Now, I just thought I was going to go into a regular mansion, just a normal mansion, nothing too off or weird. I should have known better. As soon as I go inside, I get attacked. Everyone in there has gone crazy and they're attacking you and they're fucking going nuts, and it's like a maze inside of a mansion. When you go inside this thing, my first reaction was like, what the fuck's going on? How do I move around this place? Where do I go? I'm going through all these doors and all these stairs, and it's just like a fucking puzzle inside of a mansion. It was unique, and it's one of my favorite places in the game. This game has an interesting setting with interesting characters. Characters like LaCroix, Beckett, Bertram Tung, Teresa and Jeanette, Nines Rodriguez, Damsel the Sheriff, and more. I could go on for a while about these characters, but you have to play the game to find out. I'm sure you won't regret it. It's a great game. The soundtrack in this game is pretty fucking sweet. It definitely adds to the atmosphere in a positive way. I got the dance song and the character menu song stuck in my head. Yes, you can dance in this game and it's pretty funny. Now, I've said a lot of positive things about this game. I've also talked about some of the stuff I didn't like. I have to talk about something else. Bugs. This game was very buggy when it was released, and the fans have been doing their best to fix these issues. Even with the unofficial patch, I've still ran into some bugs with this game. My character getting stuck or the enemy getting stuck, crashing, things like that. It can be annoying, but I give my utmost respect to the fans of this game. They really did their best, and they're still doing their best. They're still working on patches and things like that to fix this game and add stuff and make it better. And it really does help because I don't know what this game was like when it was released over 10 years ago, but from what I've heard, it was really fucking buggy, and I'm glad I'm not playing it in that state. So a big thank you to the fans of this game. They're doing a lot of great work. I will leave a link in the description where you can check out the unofficial patch, read the patch notes, and see if you want it. I will tell you one thing, it does add history to character creation where you can pick your character's history. I didn't use it, but it does add that. So, what are my final thoughts on the game? I think it's an excellent game. The storyline, the atmosphere, the character, the setting, the soundtrack. It's a great game and I definitely recommend it. If you're into computer role-playing games, action role-playing games, or you like what you see, you should definitely check out Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. Thank you for watching this video. You can find me on Twitter, you can leave a comment, or whatever. If you want to message me, you know where to find me. Have a great day.